The samurai, or bushi, were the warriors of pre-modern Japan. They later made up the ruling military class, which eventually became the highest-ranking social caste of the Edo period. Samurai employed a range of weapons such as bows and arrows, spears and guns, but their main weapon and symbol was the sword. Samurai were supposed to lead their lives according to the ethic code of Bushido, the way of the warrior. Strongly Confucian in nature, Bushido stressed concepts such as loyalty to one's master, self-discipline and respectful, ethical behavior. Many samurai were also drawn to the teachings and practices of Zen Buddhism. The samurai were known as bushi in Japan, or buk. The term samurai only began to appear in the first part of the 10th century, originally used to denote the aristocratic warriors. Bushido means the way of the warrior. The samurai followed an unwritten code of conduct, later formalized as Bushido, loosely comparable to the European code of chivalry. Developed from the 16th century, Bushido required that a samurai practice obedience, skill, self-discipline, self-sacrifice, bravery and honor. The ideal samurai would be a stoic warrior who followed this code, which held bravery, honor and personal loyalty above life itself. Originally, samurai was defined as those who serve in close attendance to the nobility. In time, it evolved and became associated with the bushi class, particularly middle and upper-tier soldiers. Although they were still allowed to wear the two swords that were emblematic of their social position, most samurai were forced to become civil servants or take up a certain trade. At their peak, up to 10% of Japan's population were samurai. Today, every Japanese person is said to have at least some samurai blood in them. The samurai used a range of weapons, however their main original weapon was the sword, known as chikudo. It was a slimmer, smaller version of the straight swords later used by medieval knights. As sword-making techniques progressed, the samurai would switch to curved swords, which eventually evolved into the katana. The most iconic of samurai weapons, the katana was usually carried with a smaller blade in a pair called daisho. The daisho was a symbol used exclusively by the samurai class. Besides their swords, the samurai would often use the yumi, a longbow they religiously practiced with. They would also use the yari, a Japanese spear. When gunpowder was introduced in the 16th century, the samurai abandoned their bows in favor of firearms and cannons. The Tanegashima, a long-distance flintlock rifle, became the weapon of choice among Edo-era samurai and their footmen. Made of lacquered plates of either metal or leather, the armor would be carefully bound together by laces of leather or silk. The arms would be protected by large, rectangular shoulder shields and light, armored sleeves. The right hand would sometimes be left without a sleeve, to allow for maximum movement. The samurai helmet, called a kabuto, was made of riveted metal plates, while the face and brow were protected by a piece of armor that tied around behind the head and under the helmet. The samurai were far more than just warriors. As the essential nobility of their era, the majority of samurai were extremely well educated. Bushido dictated that a samurai strive to better himself in a multitude of ways, including outside combat. Samurai were generally highly literate and skilled in mathematics. There are 4 European men who were recorded as having gained samurai status: the English sailor William Adams, his Dutch colleague Jan Jussen van Lodenstein, the French Navy officer Eugene Kalash, and arms dealer Edward Schnell. Seppuku was the act of ritual suicide by disembowelment, seen as the respected and honorable alternative to dishonor and defeat. Seppuku could either be a punishment or a voluntary act, performed by a samurai if he failed to follow Bushido or faced capture by the enemy.